911, what's your emergency?
Yeah, this is Hank on Old Gray Road.
What is it this time, Hank?
It's old Bigfoot again. He's back. He's just standing there.
Listening to You Had Me at Bigfoot with your hosts, Tom,
the plot thickens,
and Dustin.
Think about it.
Remember, you can always contact the show via Twitter at You Had Me Podcast, on Facebook, You Had Me Podcast, or by email, contact at youhadmeatbigfoot.com. Now your hosts, Tom and Dustin.
So you're abducted by aliens. And you are such a good sport about the abduction. And at the end of it all, they say, thank you, Dustin, for being such a good sport. As our way of saying thank you, we are willing to answer one question that you have about anything. We have all information about the universe. What question do you have of us that you would like us to answer?
Any question.
Any question.
Any answer. What I really, really want to know is, did Ted Cruz really like that pornographic picture on Twitter, or was it really one of his staff members?
Wow. I don't even know if they can answer that question. No, I think if you had to guess, though, was it Ted Cruz? Like, this is let's move away from the aliens answering the question. In your opinion,
Oh, my opinion, it was one of his staff members.
You think so?
I don't think Ted Cruz watches porn on Twitter.
I'm going to say this right now. I don't think anyone, Ted Cruz included, is masturbating to pictures on Twitter. I don't think it happens, period. Ted Cruz, I like him. I like the guy. And a lot of people will hate me for saying that. I think he's a true man of the people. I think he's a smart guy. I think he picked his nose on TV one time or something.
Yeah, and he ate it, I think.
Oh, man. But, I mean, who doesn't pick their nose? I mean, if you're in the bathroom and you got a real good clinger in there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta dig that pinky nail in there.
My son picks his nose daily.
I'm 31 years old and I pick my nose daily. You know, sometimes you blow your nose, you roll around outside for a little bit, you come back in and you're like, man, I'm starting to get a little bit of a headache. You know, and then you get in there and you find that real hard booger and you gotta pull it out. You gotta dig that thing out of there. So do I blame Ted Cruz for picking his nose? I guess was the original question.
Yeah.
No. All right, today we have a special treat. We have a gentleman who was allegedly abducted by aliens who is joining us on the show. He has asked to remain anonymous, so I will not say that his name is Benjamin Murphy and that he is from St. Paul, Minnesota. I think you already know. My name's Tom, and my buddy here, Dustin, he's the co-host. You want to say something to the gentleman?
Oh, no, I'm Dustin. I'm pretty excited to hear about your story and talk it out, and this is going to be pretty fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I don't know if I told you the premise of the show, did I?
It was, so, you know, kind of like a paranormal activity, kind of extraterrestrial kind of focus show or something like that, right?
We'll do cryptozoology, so Bigfoot, Wendigo, you know, any kind of weird animal, skunk ape, stuff like that. And then we have aliens, UFOs, your typical space. Like our first episode was actually about the 6 alien races that are competing for planet Earth, and we just find the most weird and far out conspiracies and stuff like that online, and then we delve into it a little bit, talk about it, and then at the end of the show we sit down and we'll after the interview or after the article's read and all that, what we do is we sit there and we'll give it 1 to 5 Bigfoots. 1 if we just absolutely don't believe the story or the interviewee, or 5 we absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt believe that particular person or article. We've never had to give anybody a 1, so
that's relieving.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. We're both very
open-minded.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna sit here and tear you apart. I mean, we might, you know, cut at you a little bit and try to get to the bottom of certain things, or we might ask you some questions that you might feel are being a little invasive or doubtful. But rest assured, both of us in this room believe wholeheartedly in aliens, abductions, and that most people are in it just to tell their story, and they're not trying to make any money. You're not going to make any money with us. We're not going to make any money. So there's no reason for you to feel like, oh, you know, I got to be put on the spot. I I got to tell my story and this is going to make me a millionaire. We're just here to have fun and get your story out there. And hopefully we'll get an expert in the field who will say, oh, you know what? It's crazy because we've actually had similar circumstances like this. If you want to just tell us your story, I read it to Dustin earlier. We're both well aware of your story and what happened. But if not, a lot of people who are listening probably have stumbled upon your particular post on Reddit, and I'm sure they'd love to hear exactly what happened from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I'm not really a fond typer, you know, I don't really like going into giant long paragraphs. So, I mean, I put in as much effort with as much minimal, like I put in as much word with, little effort as possible, right? But to get more into it is, I live in BC, Canada, and it's, I've never really seen a UFO before, but I was always interested in it when I was younger. And, me and my buddies, we all turned 18, so we wanted to go to Alberta because the drinking age is 18 down there. And when I got there, it was a cheap motel and we were drinking and, smoking and doing all that. And we passed out. There was 2 beds. My other buddy was on the other bed. I was on one. And for some reason, my other buddy was on the floor. I don't know why. But I woke up the next day, I went to go take a and I noticed that there's this odd kind of red spot on my stomach. So, I kind of got, my phone camera out and got a flash picture so I could get up close with it. And it was this big kind of like a scoop, like someone scooped a chunk of skin out of my body, right? And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. It doesn't look like a bug bite because it was, if I had to guess, maybe a little smaller, maybe a little half the size of a dime, maybe a little bigger. And it was a considerable chunk, just kind of almost looked like it was dug out. And so that was the first physical mark I've ever gotten from, anything. But I've had experiences in the past with, some people say it's sleep paralysis, but it was really different. It wasn't, I've had it before a lot. I'd wake up and I wouldn't be able to move, but I've never seen figures or heard anything, no hallucinations before. And one night I woke up for no reason at around, I think 2 a.m. And that's when my vision, trying to describe it. It was like,
no, take your time. And this is kind of what we want to hear. We want to hear, a lot of people will say, oh, I was abducted by an alien, or, I ran into a spooky out in the hallway and, it was like but nobody talks about how they actually felt and what was going on in their brain. And so you kind of get detached from their experience because you're using their words that they're trying to use to bring you in. I want to hear like as much as you can describe your emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, whatever, like all those feelings, that grab bag of emotions and all that. I want to hear all that, the best that you can do in your own words. And if we can jump in to help you find the word you're looking for, we will, but I definitely want to hear it from you and kind of like relive it with you. And I'm sure that's what listeners want to do as well.
Well, this was, I'm 18 years old now, and I was, coming on 17 at this time, and this was my first actual experience that I can remember. I was talking on the phone with my girlfriend all night, my girlfriend at the time, and, she was having trouble sleeping for, she's got like anxiety problems and stuff like that. I was just trying to help her calm down, and, I finally managed to fall asleep at around, I think, 1 a.m, and I just randomly woke up at I think around 2 a.m, because I checked my phone and noticed I missed a text. All of a sudden, I had the feeling that it's just like this kind of like fight or flight instinct come out of nowhere, when maybe a jump scare or something happens to you and you just get that like response in your body that you need to, kind of like get out of there.
Right.
It's just kind of like, that's kind of like what I was feeling, and I couldn't really figure out why. But for some reason, my vision was starting to go tunnel vision. It's kind of like fading to black slowly, and like, I could see everything, and then a little less and a little less until there's just like a dime-sized hole left that I could see. But just before it all kind of faded to just pure blackness, like that's when I kind of like, it was almost like seeing and like feeling it at the same time. There's like I wasn't alone, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then I could kind of like see just barely, almost like with these, I wouldn't say figures, but just these almost black streaks just kind of was surrounding my bed. And then my eyes, I could feel, were still open, but I couldn't see. It was just pitch black. And I started to feel like I was getting lifted off of my bed, and I started shaking like furiously, like I was having a seizure. And I could hear this hum in my ears, kind of like a voom, voom, voom. And it got like faster and louder to the point where like I felt like my eardrums were going to pop. It was just so loud. It was painful. And then I opened my eyes again, and I was in my bed. And then, I was kind of thinking like, well, what the hell just happened? Did I have a seizure? So I checked my phone. It's about, I think it was, I remember waking up at about 2, maybe 2:10 a.m. and it was just after 3. That's kind of what freaked me out a little bit. And I knew it wasn't a dream because I saw the text I missed when I woke up in the first place. And that was like my first experience. And I was crying. I was so terrified. I didn't really know what to compute of it.
Do you remember seeing anything?
He said the black streaks.
The black streaks, yeah. I mean, do you think they were figures?
Yeah, like it looked like almost like a poor drawing of like a black ominous kind of figure, you know what I mean? It was like, it wasn't defined well, but I could like kind of make it out as a figure.
Would you like kind of like a shadow figure maybe?
Yeah, almost, yeah, pretty much exactly. But it wasn't like a properly proportioned kind of figure. It was like almost elongated and kind of, it looked threatening, you know. It didn't seem friendly or safe, or, you know, it seemed very hostile, you know, almost. And I was very scared. I just thought, that's what I remember, was my heart beating a minute. You know, I'm seeing, like, feeling and hearing these strange sounds, and, you know, it's just my heart's racing 1,000 beats a minute, and I'm crying, and, you know, I'm thinking like, and I even had the idea in the moment in my head, it's like, oh my God, am I getting abducted by aliens, right? You know, because I believed in them, right? You know, even when I was little.
You were saying that your vision, you were doing kind of the, I'm trying to re-describe it in a way, because I had a very similar experience, but mine was fully explained. I was going into surgery, and I was being gassed to sleep with the, whatever, I don't know. Because I had been stuck so many times for IVs. I had broken my arm really bad, and I had to keep going back in for surgery over and over again. And I'd been stuck so many times, I was just I was running out of places to poke the needle. So I said, you know what, just gas me to sleep. I said, I'll lay down on the table, you guys gas me to sleep and whatever. And I thought it would be a whole lot easier and less invasive than the IV, but it was absolutely the worst experience of my life, because it did the same exact thing that you were talking about, where you zoom, your vision starts to get smaller and smaller, almost like you're being pulled away. To anyone who's ever watched Get Out, that newish movie.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing where you kind of get sucked into your own consciousness, for lack of a better explanation, yeah. And your vision gets smaller and smaller as you kind of fade into the background of your own existence. And it was the same thing, and I could still hear them talking. I could hear the nurses and the doctors and the surgeon and everyone talking, and it was really a kind of a surreal experience for me. And it kind of sounds like it's the same sort of thing that happened to you, which is really funny, because what do we talk when we talked about the tall grays and the short grays and all them, and how they do experiments. Yeah. So maybe they knocked this gentleman out, and and that's how they started their experiment. This isn't the time that you got your belly scooped, was it? This was a different time, right?
No, this was the earliest memory I have of any experience of any kind, at least with like a physical experience. I remember when I was, I think, about 7 years old, I was at my dad's apartment in North Vancouver, which is a city in BC, and
just because we're American doesn't mean we don't know geography. Come on.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. I've ran into a lot of people that literally think we live in igloos. I'm not even joking.
I do believe that a lot of our peers here in America are relatively retarded when it comes to geography. So I don't blame you for clarifying on your locations and everything like that.
So we're back to Vancouver.
We just wanted to give you a hard time.
So we're at Dad's in Vancouver. Continue.
Yeah, so I was around 8 years old, and it was one of the few snowy, really snowy winters we had in a while. And the apartment complex, it was these two big buildings, and they're kind of positioned in an L shape. And so I was facing the east building, and for some reason we wanted to build snow tunnels, right? And out of nowhere, we just see this kind of blue flash shine out from behind the building, and it like lit up the whole sky in that direction. And there's like, I'm trying to think, at the time I was trying to think what's in the area that could have caused that, but it's like this kind of a sketchier part of North Vancouver. And there's really nothing there that could produce such a light, such a thing to be right there. And then that was the first thing I think I saw that might have been, like a little bit out of the ordinary. But I had a second experience right after the sleep, the one, where I think I may have been abducted.
I want to hear them all. I want to hear everything you got.
All right. Well, the second one was almost exact to the first one. It was really the same thing started happening. My vision started fading, I started shaking, but the only difference was the sound. the first one, I feel like people think you're lying when you say this, but the best way I could describe the first sound was like a spaceship out of TV, like a cartoon, had like a boom, 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 like that, right? But this one was this high pitched, sharp ring, and it got louder and like kind of just, it hit me in my eardrum really bad. And I thought my ears were going to bleed. And then once again, I just opened my eyes and there I was in my bed, like nothing ever happened. But this time I didn't have any time frames because I didn't check my phone. I just kind of flicked on every single light in my room and, just hid, right? I don't want to be in the dark anymore.
I don't blame you. I'm gonna level with you just so you feel you don't have to, sugarcoat it or anything or act tough with us. I watched the movie The Fourth Kind, which is about aliens, and if I watch that movie, I cannot sleep that night. I will not. I refuse to. Like, I'll leave every light on in the house and I'll be like, I must, and like if I leave the lights on, I'm usually fine. And then my wife will come down and she'll be like, why do you have every light on? And I'll say, I must have fallen asleep with them all on. She's like, even the closet light? Like, you're like, what were you doing in the closet that you fell asleep? But
I saw an owl,
So don't feel bad like you have to sugarcoat it or anything. Believe me, I'm a huge chicken.
Yeah.
I quit ghost hunting when I watch Paranormal Activity. Like, I'm real easy to scare when it comes to that sort of stuff, especially aliens, man. That sort of thing, it freaks me out. So don't feel like you have to act tough with us. Dustin won't even go ghost hunting.
I just say it because I'm not usually a superstitious or even really kind of like a paranormal kind of guy, right? To begin with. I mean, I believe wholeheartedly in aliens. It'd be dumb to think they don't exist, to be honest, right? But
right. Well, I mean, you've had alien fingers inside of you, so you have to believe in them, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I after the scoop mark, I really kind of wanted to make sure that wasn't the only anomalous thing that's appeared on my body, and I looked around and I looked at some scars, but for the most part I knew where every single one came, except for one that was a little more in the private area that was literally the exact same kind of size and shape as the scoop mark, but it was scarred over.
That's the one you were telling me you wouldn't send because you were afraid I was going to put it up on Craigslist, right?
No. I wanted to save everybody the trouble of not seeing that picture.
Was this mark in your front private area or your back private area?
I think he said it was the front, right? It's like, you just go ahead and describe it.
To be more exact, it was right on my right testicle, like exactly over where it actually is inside the skin. It was like directly over where that is.
Oh, no way. Because remember, they were saying that when we read that other article, they said that they collect semen and for DNA experiments or for fertilization experiments.
And that's so it looked like a scar, just a scar in your right testicle.
No, it looked like a scarred over version of the scoop mark that I had on my stomach. Like, it looked almost cool, but it had obviously been there for a while and I just didn't notice.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it when I first saw it. I kind of, just the fact that it looks so similar to the one I just got.
If you listen to some of our shows, if you go to our website and just listen to some of our shows.
He's shamelessly plugging the show.
Yeah, I'm shamelessly.
Check us out at You Had Me About Podcast.
You'll hear that I personally am not a big alien person. I mean, I believe there's life.
Short alien person.
Yeah, well, yeah. If I was an alien, I'd be a short gray. But nonetheless, I believe there's life out there. I really do. I don't see how there can only be life on this planet. However, I am pretty big in the paranormal, and there is a theory. Right. And going back earlier, I asked if it looked like kind of like a shadowy figure, and where I was leading that with that is there are people in the paranormal community that believe that spirits can imitate what some people have said is an alien abduction could really be a haunting. And I'm not saying this is what happened in your case, but there are people out there who believe that, a lot of that alien paranormal thing is really closely related to each other. These abductions, were you, I know you said you were on a road trip during the latest one, but were the other ones at the same place, or was you at all different locations at all times?
No, the first two I was in the same place. It was my home.
When you're talking about these things, and I'm sitting here going, man alive, this this guy, if what he's saying is accurate, man, this is crazy. And I'm trying to like wrap my head around, because just by talking to you, you don't seem like you're lying. You don't seem like you're searching for answers, and you can tell. I can question somebody. You can tell if someone's looking for an answer or if they're lying. They're and talking to you, you're coming back with these answers quickly, and that's what kind of makes me think like, man, like what is he experiencing? So I don't know. I just can't even.
He's over here all flustered.
I'm flustered just thinking about what you've gone through, and I can't even imagine having an experience and waking up and seeing.
Have you ever had sleep paralysis? It sounds a lot like that, but this sounds a little bit. His is a little bit more intense than what would be your standard experience of sleep paralysis. And I was looking at the comments, and it was a bunch of naysayers on there saying, "Oh, I'm a Facebook doctor. I know everything. I'm a Facebook lawyer." Like those guys who got their degrees at Zuckerberg University.
Yeah, one guy said it was a weed ember that gave him the scoop mark.
So he tried to say you were just high. Man, you were just high when that happened.
It's like, listen, Banff is in the Rockies, buddy. I mean, when the sun goes down, I'm not going shirtless, Like, I was in full clothing, and I haven't spotted a hole in any of them. So, I mean.
Yeah, well, people will look for anything just because that's what's frustrating about the sort of things that we cover and talk about is people are so quick to, rather than embracing the idea that maybe it's true, and obviously we don't come right out and say, we don't go into an interview or into an article saying, oh, this whole thing is absolutely 100% true. We go in with an open mind, but at the same time, we're like, this guy might be full of shit. I don't know. So we kind of go into everything like that. But a lot of these people go into it thinking, oh, this guy is definitely full of shit because I have never read about this on Huffington Post, so I know for a fact that he's a liar, Yeah. So that's the problem with those comments is a lot of people, they come back at you with unvalidated skepticism just because they don't understand something and they weren't physically there and they only get their information from one particular source. And it's frustrating, and I get it, but that's why I had to look at the comments, and some of them were really funny, how it was just, oh no, this is most definitely sleep paralysis because I was there, I saw the whole thing, I know everything. And I have sleep paralysis, like if I keep doing it, I'm gonna win something. Like that's how often I have it. So I can tell you it does sound a lot like the symptoms of sleep paralysis, but there are some additional pieces that make it seem like it might be something more than that, which is why I'm more than willing to humor you and hear the whole story and hear more about it and otherwise I would have just written you off like, oh, this is a crazy guy for sleep paralysis. Right. But I've been there. I've experienced sleep paralysis. I experience it to this day, and I take a lot of medication to try to prevent it, but it still happens from time to time. And so somebody coming on there saying, oh, this is definitely sleep paralysis, even though there are a couple additional things that we should probably take into consideration, their answer is automatically, it's sleep paralysis and additional symptoms that I'm not going to, it's two separate things. So we're just going to totally segregate the two things. So that's what's frustrating to me about people on the internet. And I don't know why some of those nerds are on there on that alien forum anyways. Like, if you don't believe in aliens, just go somewhere else, man. Like, where's my safe space to talk about aliens with other people who like aliens? Yeah. I'm not here to. I
mean, like, it's just. Like I said, ever since I was a little kid, this is like, I've always dreamed of meeting an alien, right?
And that's your problem. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's always been kind of like a personal interest. It's never been something I've like actually actively gone on to Reddit or onto a forum to discuss until the scoop mark, because I wanted answers, and I figured, if anybody's going to know, it's probably going to be on a site or a forum, made specifically for people who really believe and, who are more knowledgeable about the subject than I am. And that's just kind of why I made the post, right? And I mean, I'm no stranger to sleep paralysis. I've had it many times, but the only difference between, I guess, me and what many people have with sleep paralysis is that I've never hallucinated. I've been completely clear-minded and realized the situation. The only difference is I can't move, and that's been the extent of my sleep paralysis.
So
I've never seen anything.
No, I was going to say, so for somebody to come out and say, no, that was sleep paralysis, that would be one thing if you had never had sleep paralysis. But at least you can say, no, I've had sleep paralysis. That's not what this was. Like, at least we can take that into consideration when talking about, later on when we scrutinize you and pick you apart in our post interview review, we could say, no, this dude, he knows what sleep paralysis is. And that's what the problem is with all those comments, is they're just jumping out there saying, oh no, it was sleep paralysis, but they didn't hear Oh yeah, he had sleep paralysis, so he knows the difference. What other experiences do you have maybe you'd like to throw out there? Anything else interesting that you'd like to include in your story?
I mean, those are pretty much the most like notable things I've probably experienced. I mean, you know, I've been, you know, through situations where, you know, this particular street light in my town, whenever I'd walk under it for some reason, it would just turn off. And then when I left, it would turn back on. That kind of freaked me out a little bit because whenever any of my friends who were with me while I did it, whenever they walked under it, it was perfectly fine. But
just that one particular street light?
Just one, yeah. It's just like, and it wasn't like a random glitch. It was just like I literally would walk under it to see it go off, and then I'd step back to see it turn back on, which kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I haven't taken that route since. But yeah, I mean, I think beyond that, my life is pretty benign. You know, it's just
What do you do for a living, if I can ask?
Right now, I just do part-time jobs because, you know, I'm getting into school and stuff. You know, post-academic.
Sure. What's your passion? Like, where do you want to, in 5 years, where do you want to be?
I'm still asking myself that, to be honest.
Yeah, I am. I'm 31 years old. I'm still asking that question, too.
Yeah, I mean, something to do with helping people. You know, maybe I looked in the Coast Guard, maybe, and stuff like that. But beyond that, I really don't know.
How long ago was the scoop incident?
It was actually the end of August. It was the 25th of August.
So this just recently happened. Now, have you gone to a doctor to have yourself checked out to see if there's anything weird going on with your body?
No, I mean,
I thought you guys had free healthcare.
Yeah, it's not 100% free, but along the lines, it's not the matter of fact of whether it's free, but really the fact because it's kind of free is that getting to a doctor takes a lot longer.
Sure.
You know, it's just to see my family doctor, it'd be an hour and a half, maybe two, waiting in the waiting room, only to have him look at some random mark on my body and then him just go like, oh, it's nothing, get out of my office, right?
Yeah.
You know, like they're not going to whip out an x-ray machine just like right there just because I said, hey, you know, I think I got abducted by aliens, right? And they're going to look at me like I'm sick.
Well, I guess
You know?
if it was me, my concern would be like, holy shit, I have a scar on my nut. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like, that's what I just wonder if you were abducted and these experiments were performed on your testicles. Like
he's doing this thing. Like I'm
I know you can't see my hands.
He's doing this thing like he's pounding his hands together.
But like, I'm like, I'd be stressed that I'm not fertile. Like, what's going on with me? Like, or have I been implanted with something where I'm going to have the next baby Jesus alien figure because something was, and that's joking, obviously, but. No, I mean, I just think that if I was you, I'd want to get into a medical center and be like, hey, I just noticed this scar. Can you tell me what it is? Or
like make sure that they didn't take your kidneys. You know what I mean? Like you didn't wake up in a tub full of ice and like in the bad part of
because
Alberta.
then you'd be looking at your friends like, what the shit, guys? Do your friends know about this?
No, I don't. No one really knows about this. I mean,
so we probably shouldn't release your name and your social security number.
I was gonna say at the end, maybe just keep the name off the record. But if anybody I knew knew I was doing this,
no. We won't rat you out.
We won't put your name out there. I'll be honest. Coming into this interview with you, I'm sitting here like, man, this guy's gonna be full of it.
Yeah, he was over here. He was saying all sorts of horrible things about you.
Terrible.
He was
saying,
you got big ears. Your mom dresses you funny. He was saying
terrible
all sorts of horrible things.
Terrible things. No, but I mean, going into it, just like you're the first person I've ever talked to that claimed an alien abduction. So going into it, I mean, first of all, I was excited. Been pretty excited about this interview. But I'd say you live up to it, man. Like I'm pretty, like you've really got my brain thinking. I'm not going to sleep tonight because I'm going to be in bed all night thinking about it. Because like I said, you can just kind of, you're not tumbling over yourself. What I fully expected you to come and us be talking and you'd be like, oh yeah, I saw these aliens and they had round heads and they were great. The fact that you really can't say what they look like because,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. What was you going to say?
No, I was just going to say like, I actually just forgot. I'm sorry.
Aliens, I'll tell you what.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, but I did, the fact that, because that's the way I kind of figured alien abduction would go down is like, you wouldn't necessarily remember a whole lot of it. So when you get some of these kooky ass people that are like, oh yeah, I saw them and they were tall and a female, somebody responded on our Twitter page.
Yeah, go ahead and read them that question while we're thinking about it.
we kind of covered it, but, I told him I'd read the question. Let me pull it up here from you. The question comes from @2daddy. They just asked, what did they look like? What were they wearing? And then he goes on to say that he met 2 human-type aliens, a male and a female, back in 1966 when he was 12 years old. Now, obviously, we covered what they look like with the shadow figure, but...
And it's really hard to tell what they were going to be wearing. So
obviously.
Yeah.
But, even in this person's situation, I mean, he's saying he was abducted in 1966 and it was a male alien and a female alien. Like, okay.
But you're not alone. There's all these people who have very similar experiences. I personally, I've never been abducted by an alien. I can't even begin to pretend that I was. I wouldn't even know where to begin as far as that goes. But there's a lot of people out there like you who have experiences that may or may not be extraterrestrial related. So, and this gentleman that asked that particular question. I like hearing these stories. I do. I like hearing people's experiences because I've never personally been abducted by aliens. Have you?
No. But, I desperately want this to be true. And that's why I like to hear stories like this. I mean, like I said, my mind is just all over the place right now because I've never talked to anyone who's claimed an abduction. And your story, like I said, I don't know. I'm speechless because I'm just playing it in my head like, man, could it be paranormal? Was it alien? Is it this? Is it that? It's not weed, man. Like, people's going to look at your post and be like, oh, you're just high. But weed ain't going to make you think you were abducted by an alien. I don't think it will. But
yeah, it's not the first thing on my mind.
No, and that's what's funny is because when I pitched the fact that you were going to be, or that you had agreed to be on the show, I read your post to Dustin, and he said, "So you're telling me an 18-year-old pothead is?"
That was what I said. Yeah.
His first, and then I said, "No, hold on, hear me out." And then we continued with the story. So he came into it very skeptical, and I think you've made something of a believer of him, at least a little bit.
I will say that, and that's true. I was pretty skeptical. I was pretty closed-minded kind of going into this because I was like, okay, whatever. But just listening.
Because I find some real weirdos.
Oh, he finds some people.
So he automatically assumes the worst whenever I tell him about something.
No, I mean, you have surprised me, and that's awesome, man. I'm really happy we got to talk to you. Like I said, I can't even put words together because I'm just trying to think about everything. Like, man, and I hope that this is over for you. I hope that this stuff doesn't continue for you, or if it does, maybe you'll get more answers. If it does, I don't know.
Less fingers.
Fingers, yeah. No fingers, man. And I'm telling you right now, if you get abducted again and you have an anal probing, this is what I need to know. And you contact us and we're going to have you on the show. Because my big debate is how many fingers do they use for the probing. So,
I think it's 2. I think it's just 2. That's all you need. If you ever have another experience, I hope this experience with us hasn't turned you off from telling your story in the future. Certainly turned you off to telling your story to us in the future. Did you just get abducted just now?
No, sorry, I was listening.
I thought I was...
Dude, if you could see my face right now.
He looked at me like, oh my God, what happened to him?
Because there was just the sound like,
we thought you got sucked away. But yeah, I mean, if you ever...
Yeah, for sure, if I ever experience another thing, I'll definitely reach out to you guys.
That'd be fantastic. I hope that this isn't the last time that we talk to you. I hope we hear more from you in the future, at least as far as this is concerned. And I know Dustin said he hopes it's over for you, but as far as abductions and everything, but I hope that we continue to hear more about the saga of, John Doe. I want to hear more about your interstellar travel and experimentation.
Yeah, for sure. And as soon as I either experience or learn more, I'll definitely reach out to you guys. For the meantime, I think I'm just going to relax and thank God I'm still on Earth.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude, I don't know what to think. Because like I said, here's the thing. You almost expect him, if he's really stoned out of his mind, to talk like that.
Yeah, that's the problem with that whole culture of, what you would consider a quote unquote pothead. You expect them to talk like, Shaggy and Scooby, that's.
But then you also, he says he hasn't told any of his friends. If I got abducted tonight, I don't think I would be dude, I think I got abducted. Like, I've thought about this, right? And why wouldn't I? Well, I do a show about this shit. So, but if I was ever to be abducted by an alien, I would be scared. I'd be scared to death to say something to anybody because I would, more than anything, just think that people think I'm crazy. So I wouldn't want to say anything. So that's one reason why I asked the question, what do your friends think about this? And when he said, well, they don't know, and I really don't want anybody to know about it, like, if he was making all this up, he could just be like, dude, I'm making this stuff up, man. Like, I just went on a podcast, and they don't think I was abducted by an alien.
Yeah, it's not like we're famous or anything, you know?
So the fact that he's kind of like, yeah, my friends don't know, I really don't want anybody to know, like, I'd appreciate if my name doesn't get out there. Like, that kind of makes you think, like, man, this guy might be telling the truth here. Like, or at the very least, even to him, it sounds like he's not even 100% sure if it was aliens, but this is the experience that he has, judging off the pictures that he has found online, that this is what, you know, the marks on his body. Well, based off what he's looking online, it says it was a tool from an alien or whatever. So it almost even sounds like and that's why, I don't know how familiar with this you are, but there are theories out there that spirits and can imitate alien activity. Like, that's a thought. Or that a lot of people get like, oh, I saw an alien, a dark figure, you know, a lot of that stuff. Like, this kid could seriously, it could not be aliens. He could be dealing with a poltergeist of some sort, and, you know, in his house, especially being that he was in the same location for a lot of this. But at the same time, it could be aliens, and if it is, that's what's really, like, to me, that's more scary than if he's dealing with a poltergeist or some kind of haunting.
I would rather deal with a haunting, I think.
Oh, much rather. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, for me, I hope it's a haunting for this kid's sake. You know what I'm saying? Because it sounds like to me, if it's a haunting, he's got an attachment or whatever, which, you know, hey, you can deal with that. If it's an alien thing, and again, it sounds like he's got, like, if it's an alien thing, he's marked somehow. I mean, he has, you know, the only thing is, without us knowing this kid, you know, look, you have a scar on your testicle. You could have had that from when you was a kid and you just didn't know about it, or you could have had a hernia or whatever. You know, you have a mark on your stomach. Where's that coming from, you know? Without knowing him and knowing what his medical past is and knowing what he looks like, whatever. But, you know, if that's true, that he just wakes up and there's these marks and he doesn't know what they are, I mean, that would be freaky. And I could see where he's kind of like just looking for answers without going out there and telling people, I think I got abducted by an alien. Because I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I'd probably do it the same way. Like, let's go on Reddit. Let's, you know, like, roll low key kind of figure. I don't know, man. You know, I came into this thinking this dude was going to be so full of it, and really going into it thinking that we were just going to, like, destroy him towards the end of the interview. And it almost, because he didn't really change the story much. How many times did you ask him to describe the story?
Like 3 at least.
And he pretty much described it the exact same way each time. Like, he makes the comment, like, his first experience was a bright light in the sky, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
that could have been a meteor.
Who cares about, like, the little things? But, I mean, he was willing to say, hey, look, you know, these things happened. This is not, like, something that just popped up on me. Like, maybe this stuff that happened to me before. And he was very clear about that. Like, maybe this has to do with this. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But I'm just, you know, I'm telling you everything. I'm giving you everything I got. So he's, like, a very compliant interviewee, I guess. You know, like, he's very, you know, willing to talk about his experience, and I think that's awesome. I think he was a good interview. I think he... And
that's the other thing, too. Like, we were popping our little jokes. He never really seemed like he got offended by it.
No,
like,
he was just a regular dude. And that's
but it was just...
I could pick that up off
you know,
of him.
and you could kind of tell... He did have, like, a... I don't know if you noticed this, and when we go back and listen to it, maybe you'll notice it, because this is how I took it. Some of the jokes we were making, he kind of did, like, a nervous little laugh. And again, and that's the thing, like, we joke about it, but this is something that really happened to him. Like, how would you feel if someone's, like, joking and you're, and that's, you know, and he doesn't want, and he doesn't want to be like, screw you guys or whatever, but, you know, he's kind of like, you know, that's kind of how he was laughing about, like, but he took it well too. You know what I'm saying?
So imagine you just got diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And somebody makes a joke about cancer.
Yeah.
You want to still be heard. You want your story to be heard. Yeah, it's tasteless. Somebody makes a cancer joke when you were just diagnosed with cancer.
But you're not going to act like you're offended by it.
Right. And you're going to kind of like, chuckle softly, like you said, a very nervous laugh.
And that's kind of how he laughed a little bit.
Yeah.
Like,
so it makes sense that he truly experienced, if he didn't really experience these things and he was just trying to get attention or whatever, he'd be like, oh, screw you guys. I think he would have reacted differently had we made jokes about something that he was trying to pretend.
And I think that's why, and I'm assuming that he'll listen to this show when it's all finished and we release it, but I think that's one reason why we do make the comments we make sometimes, is to get the reaction out of the people.
A lot of these people come on, they're freaked out. They're freaking out. They're like, are these people?
And you're trying to break the ice a little bit.
Yeah, so it's a lot about rapport building.
But I really do want to know about the fingers thing. I mean, that's serious.
All right. Well, speaking of fingers, show me how many fingers for how many Bigfoots you give this gentleman. 1 to 5. 1 to 5 fingers. I'm going
to do 2 of them. Okay.
All right. So you're holding up 2 fingers.
Based off his experience, I believe this guy experienced something. Based off the experience, I'm gonna give him like four Bigfoot, and I would give him 5, but I'm gonna give him 4 Bigfoot just based off his experience. Now, the fact that he can't definitively say, hey, this was an alien abduction, the alien side of it, I'm going to give him 3 Bigfoots just because, as me being a skeptic I am with the alien thing, I'm going to chalk this up to paranormal. Like, there's something that tells me this is a paranormal thing that he's got going on with him and not so much an alien thing. But I believe that this kid's really experienced something. So, yeah, I'm going to give him a 4 Bigfoot on the entire story. Just, the only reason I'm not giving him a 5 because, we try not to give 5s to people, except for, like, some paranormal investigators and stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna give him a 4 because I think he really experienced something. He can't explain it, and the only reason he really even thinks it's aliens based off these markings on his body and some research that he's done.
That's the beautiful thing about us being the hosts of this particular podcast and having no bosses, is we can kind of just make up rules like, I'm gonna I know it's just one interview, but let's go ahead and give him however. I'm gonna give him 7 who cares, or 7 different scores. So no, I like that. I like that idea of giving him. I'm going to differ from you. I'm going to take it up a notch. I'm going to say that I truly believe that in his mind, in his life, as far as he is concerned, that's 5 Bigfoots to me. I think he really does believe that this happened. And as much as I know you said, it's hard to give people a 5, but I think, so there's 2 ways that you can look at this. When you experience something and then you remember that particular experience, the first time that you remember it, you are remembering that experience. Mm-hmm. After that, you're no longer remembering the experience. You're remembering the last time you remembered. So over time, fortunately, this happened, last month or... Yeah, it just happened.
The very end of a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
So this happened. So, I mean, this is fresh in his mind, I think, fresh enough to where what he experienced is what he told us. He didn't sound like a liar. He seemed to pass every single, little pseudo test that we gave him. I don't think he was a liar. And I will I'll stand by him in court, as far as that's concerned. I think that what he experienced is what he experienced. Mm-hmm. And I think he is shaken by it. He is rattled by it, like we talked about. I think he's just as I don't think he would give himself 5 Bigfoots on the fact that it was an alien, because that's why he's reaching out. That's why he's asking all these different people. I'm sure if I looked at his post history, he would tell, he would have posts in multiple different subreddits saying, is this paranormal? Is this aliens? Especially now that you've put that in his mind. Thanks, Dustin.
Yeah. Thanks. I did think it was an alien, but now I'm worried about there being something in my house.
Now it might be a homeless person in my house scooping stuff out of me. I think I'll give him a 5 as far as this in his mind. This happened. This is an experience that he had, in as much as I would give myself a 5 that I took a shower at 6 o'clock this morning. Like, sure. I know that happened. Whether
so
or
more
not
or less,
it's an alien,
the 5 is based off. You obviously don't think he's making none of this up. You think this really happened.
I think he's 100%.
At least in his mind,
honest.
this all happened to him.
Yes. Whether or not the what of that particular
and we agree on
situation is where it kind of comes into where we need to actually consider it a little bit more. And like you said, a 3 that's a good number. I like it because it's either aliens, it's paranormal, it's Could it be sleep paralysis? Absolutely. It could be. It could be a plethora. I mean, the human body is a weird kind of thing, and it does its own thing. Could it be a bug bite that healed kind of funky? You know, could he have worn really short shorts one summer and got a bug bite on his right nut? I don't know. And that's where it kind of gets mucky. Do I think it's an alien? I think it's absolutely possible that it was an alien. I think it's absolutely possible it was a ghost. I think it was absolutely possible it was something really weird. So I agree with you. I think a 3 is a reasonable number because we don't know. He doesn't know. No one knows what happened. And hopefully with regression therapy, like he said, if he's able to come up with it, maybe we should start a GoFundMe for this guy to go get his therapy.
Yeah, so especially since he's got to wait an hour and a half. But you know, look, let's be honest here. You can have mental breakdowns like this, especially when you sleep in an igloo. You know what I'm saying? Like, when that's where you have to sleep and live every day is in an igloo in Vancouver.
Especially in Russia. I mean,
in Russia, yeah. Vancouver is just a, you know, as we know, an extension of Russia. Sarah Palin will tell you that
she can see where this guy lives from her backyard. Yeah.
But no, I mean, that's funny that he said that.
I know you guys are dumb, but
people really think I live in an igloo. But that was really funny. But,
I'm ripping on Americans too, so I'm glad and that's when I knew he was kind of a cool dude.
Full disclosure, my wife hates Canadians. So when I tell her that I interviewed a Canadian, she's going to say he's a liar from the get-go.
I wanted to, at the very beginning, when he started talking, I was going to be, hey there, how you doing there? You want to go fishing there, eh? I wanted to do it, but he had like such a subtle Canadian accent. I was like, that's not even going to be funny.
Like, you almost sound American, buddy.
He could pass as an American right now, except for he knows geography. So,
but and that's the other thing. He sounded educated. And then one other thing I was going to point out. I don't know if you noticed this or not either, but there's times where he'd be like, and I was like crying, and he almost like ashamed of it. Like,
yeah, and that's why I had to level with him. I'm like, look, everyone in this room is a huge chicken. So I mean, like you crying because you were what you thought was an alien abduction. That's terrifying. I would too.
I cry watching The Notebook.
I've never watched The Notebook. I've never been notebooked, if you can believe it. But I get it. I mean, like, there's not a movie out there that I haven't cried at the ending of. So I mean, I feel you on that one. So
full disclosure, I'm not gay, but I watched The Notebook.
You have a notebook tattoo. What are you talking about? But
just because I have Ryan Gosling's face tattooed on me doesn't mean that I'm that way.
DC plus RG in a heart.
But no, I mean, the fact that, and he did, because I that's another thing I kind of noticed that got me thinking, like, this dude's being serious. Like, he's not making this up, because if it was an act, like, if I was acting, I'd be like, dude, I was crying, man. Like, but he kept saying, like, I cried. Like,
he'd laugh at his own.
He'd laugh at his own.
Like, because hey, you can laugh at me. I know it sucks. I'm a big baby.
But like you could tell, like, he didn't want to be like, I'm about to tell these guys that I was crying, but like, because he's kind of ashamed by that. But I mean, hey, and I don't think look, I don't use drugs. I never use drugs. So I don't know, but
in case your employer's listening.
But I don't think that weed would make you, I don't know.
The thing about weed is it depends on it depends on the strain, B, the potency, C, your tolerance, a number of things. And the way that this guy, he's like, I was out there smoking, he wasn't like, I was out there smoking the marijuana, he doesn't seem like this was his first time ever smoking weed. Mm-hmm. So his tolerance was probably pretty good. The strain, he's probably, as an educated guy, potentially educated in the marijuana and the strains and everything like that. He probably knew what he was getting into. It's not like he was jumping into a brand new, super strong, super potent strain. I'm sure he knew what he was getting into, and if he was going to jump in like with zero experience and jump into a really potent strain, I'm sure he would have known, oh well, that was probably because I smoked a super potent strain that was laced with angel dust, So he's probably not. With certain potent strains with a low tolerance, it is possible to have hallucinations. Yes, his particular experiences didn't kind of match. As far as he was smoking weed and then he woke up and he had the noose or had the scar. His other one was when he saw the figures And he didn't say anything about smoking weed that day. And he seemed very honest about, hey, look, I was smoking weed on this trip to Alberta and this happened. So I think if he were to have been under the influence of a particular drug, I think he would have admitted that to us. He was very straightforward about his experiences and what could have potentially gotten in the way of a clear recollection of that particular experience.
Well, it sounds like he's going to be willing to come back on the show maybe. So if you listen to this show and you have any questions, if you're sitting at home and
smoking weed,
man,
getting abducted by aliens,
and you got any questions for this guy, definitely shoot us some questions. We'll get back a hold of him, and if we get enough questions together, maybe we can have a follow-up show with him. But hopefully if anything else happens with him, he does reach out, and maybe we can keep in touch with him or reach out to him once every now and then. But I don't know, it's a pretty good interview, pretty good show. I was pretty excited about this, honestly. But
I'm glad it went the way it did.
But as always, you can follow us on Twitter at You Had Me Podcast.
And you can like us on Facebook, You Had Me Podcast. And
you can email us at contact@youhadme@bigfoot.com.
And check out our new and improved website, www.youhadme@bigfoot.com, for news, for our podcasts, and for links to reference material.
Until next time, this is D-.
And this is
T-minus 17 seconds and counting. 15. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, remaining start, 2, 1, boost to ignition, and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery, returning to the space station, paving the way for future missions beyond. Discovery, the Space Shuttle begins the journey back into orbit. Discovery completes its roll. Shuttle now heads down wings level to maintain flight orbit. Speed from the camera on the external tanks with oxygen feed line showing the bird's eye view of Discovery as it races towards space, a star-spangled start to Discovery's mission. Discovery's 3 liquid fuel main engines now throttled back to 67% of rated performance, reducing the stress on the shuttle as it breaks through the sound barrier. Discovery already 3.5 miles in altitude, 1.5 miles downrange, traveling almost 750 miles an hour. Everything looking good on the bird.